She's been missing. She's been gone too long. I can't sleep. I can't eat. Just bring her home, please. That's all I'm asking.
But she was a beautiful child. Just a beautiful child.
On a cold January afternoon in Detroit, 13-year-old ZIYAH Harris stepped off her school bus just as she had done countless times before. But on this day, something went terribly wrong. ZIYAH never made it home. ZIYAH Harris was a bright, joyful girl whose disappearance has left a void in her family's heart and shaken her entire community. What began as a missing persons case quickly spiraled into something far more tragic and alarming, sparking countless questions. How did this happen? Who is responsible? And will justice ever truly be served? The story of ZIYAH's disappearance isn't just another unsolved mystery. It is a haunting reflection of the systemic failures that failed to protect an innocent child. In today's video, we'll go beyond the surface, piecing together the events that led to her disappearance and shedding light on the investigation that followed. We'll unravel the disturbing facts that have emerged and take a closer look at the man at the center of this case, a man whose troubling past raises even more red flags about how such tragedies could be prevented. But that's not all. We'll also explore the tireless fight for justice being waged by ZIYAH's family, determined to find answers and ensure her story is never forgotten. This is more than just a heartbreaking case. It's a story that needs to be told. Join us as we dig into the details of ZIYAH's tragic fate, the search for accountability, and the urgent need for change. ZIYAH Harris was a vibrant 13-year-old girl from Detroit, Michigan, known for her bright smile, loving nature, and the joy she brought to those around her. Born in 2010, she was a student at J. Clark Preparatory Academy, where she was building dreams for her future. ZIYAH's life revolved around school, friends, and family, simple pleasures that many of us take for granted.
I remember her just being a loving, caring little girl. From the last time that, I seen her, she was, she was young. I didn't see her when she was 13, but I seen her when she was maybe, I think like 2 or 3 years old. So for me, it hits me a little differently because I still see her as that.
Yeah, so she was a fun-loving girl. They got a lot of time to spend time together. He always talked about ice cream trucks and her riding a bike.
On that fateful January 9th, 2024, ZIYAH's world was turned upside down in a way that would shock her community and leave her family desperate for answers. As she stepped off her school bus at the corner of Cornwall and 3 Mile Drive, a routine she had followed countless times before, she vanished without a trace. The next day, when ZIYAH failed to return home or make contact with anyone, she was reported missing. The community was immediately on high alert. How could a 13-year-old girl simply vanish into thin air?
On January 9th, we believe Miss ZIYAH Harris did not return home from school. She was a student at Clark Elementary. January 10th, her family went about the process of reporting her missing.
It's not normal for a 13-year-old to be missing over 2 months. There is no sign of life. There is no social media communication. There are no friends who've heard from her, no family. It's not normal.
ZIYAH's home life was complicated. She was being raised by her aunt, while her biological parents were not actively involved in her daily life.
When the last time you been up to your daughter's school? I said, my daughter's school. I said, I don't even know what school she go to. I said, I've been looking for her. And they looked at each other, and I was like, what's going on? They said, your daughter's missing.
As the search for ZIYAH intensified, her family, particularly her father, Mervyn Jennings, was tireless in their efforts to find her. Despite his own health issues, Mervyn devoted every ounce of his energy to the search, passing out flyers, combing through social media, and leaving no stone unturned.
I go out every day. We pass out the flyers. I read the comments. I look at this, I look at that. It's a lot.
The disappearance of ZIYAH Harris was not just a family tragedy. It became a community crisis. Flyers with her picture were plastered across Detroit, social media campaigns were launched, and local news stations kept her story in the public eye. But as time passed, hope began to fade, and a dark suspicion started to grow.
We've been looking for her. We've been passing out flyers. We've been calling people. We've been knocking on doors. We have done some of everything, and we're asking anybody that has any information
any information, I don't care who it is, please come forth. Her life could be in danger. Please call the police department. I want my baby home. We all can come together and help find her. I'm telling you, we can make a difference.
As the search for Nazia continued, the Detroit Police Department left no stone unturned. They conducted multiple searches, including combing through a pond in Clinton Township and scouring the Rouge River on Detroit's west side. But despite their efforts, no trace of Nazia was found. The lack of evidence was puzzling and frustrating for both the investigators and Nazia's family. How could a young girl disappear without leaving any clues behind? The case was eventually handed over to the U.S. Marshals, signaling the seriousness and complexity of the investigation. As the investigation progressed, a disturbing pattern began to emerge. Attention started to focus on a man who had been in Nazia's life through his relationship with her aunt. This man, later identified as Jarvis Ramon Butts, would become the central figure in the case.
Yes, he was around Nazia frequently, from what I know, with her aunt. It was her this person of interest was her aunt that she was staying with at the time, boyfriend.
I believe that this was about to come out, that he had an inappropriate relationship with Nazia. Actually assaulting her.
The revelation that a potential predator had been so close to Nazia sent shockwaves through the community. How could this happen? Why wasn't he noticed sooner? These questions would haunt Nazia's family and friends in the coming months.
And she was the type of kid who wouldn't just wander away. If she's going to go somewhere, she's responsible, she would tell someone. But there was no communication, so everyone suspected something was really, really wrong, and that's turned out to be very, very true.
Now to find out that with his history, that he's been doing this all of these years to God knows how many other children.
As the investigation deepened, more disturbing details came to light about Jarvis Ramon Butts and his troubling past. It was discovered that Butts had a lengthy criminal history, including a 2005 conviction for third-degree criminal sexual conduct. This conviction had resulted in a 10-year prison sentence, but his release from prison did not mark the end of his predatory behavior.
I believe it was pretty public. His history is pretty public, considering the fact that he's a registered sex offender. So you can just type in his name and he'll pop up. I believe he also did some prison time for the same thing. So it pretty much seems like he went to prison for it, got out of prison for it, and turned around and did the same thing.
He basically came home from prison, and it seems like went right back to his same old activities.
Social media posts and community comments began to paint a disturbing picture of Butts, with one person who had interacted with him in a work setting describing him as someone who definitely gives off them vibes and is aggressive. Further investigation revealed that Butts' criminal history was extensive and deeply troubling. In addition to his 2005 conviction, there were allegations that he had continued his predatory behavior even after his release from prison, potentially targeting multiple minors and even fathering children with underage girls. Better not had no mutuals. He the reason why that little 13-year-old that's missing was pregnant. He has so many kids by minors. Her aunt, his girlfriend, and the aunt's household members allowed the rape to occur. They've so-called known since September 2023. CPS was called, nothing happened. Now she missing, and they phones pinged of the same tower the day she went missing somewhere away from home. I'm proud of the family members that went to officials and are speaking out. I just pray maybe she ran to escape. These revelations, while unverified, painted a horrifying picture of a serial predator who had managed to create a web of abuse involving multiple victims. The suggestion that Nazia might have been pregnant at the time of her disappearance added another complex layer of tragedy to an already heartbreaking case.
I believe my daughter was pregnant. Yes.
Perhaps most disturbing were the allegations that Butts' concerning behavior had been reported to authorities multiple times, with family members claiming they had tried to alert Child Protective Services about the danger he posed. Yet somehow he remained free to continue his predatory ways, leaving Nazia and potentially other children vulnerable.
We have been adamant about not just letting the family know, but Child Protective Services know way before Neziah came up missing.
During this whole time, I found out there were 2 other CPS cases naming him in several incidences related to children, other than the one that I reported.
The community's anger and frustration were palpable. Many wondered how many red flags needed to be raised before action was taken to protect innocent children like Neziah.
It's been far too long, and, we're ready for some convictions.
The case had exposed deep-seated issues within the system designed to protect children, leading to Cass. The investigation into Butt's past continued. It became increasingly clear that the failures of the system had played a crucial role in this tragedy. The repeated reports to Child Protective Services and the apparent lack of action highlighted the flaws in a framework that was meant to safeguard the vulnerable. This case was not an isolated incident. It shone a spotlight on a disturbing pattern where dangerous individuals like Butts were able to evade the justice system and continue their predatory behavior, often with devastating consequences. The community's resolve to seek justice for Neziah and to prevent future tragedies only grew stronger in the face of these revelations. All's for reform and greater accountability. As the months wore on, the search for ZIYAH Harris transformed from a rescue mission into a quest for justice. The pain of her absence was felt deeply by her family, particularly her father, Mervyn Jennings, who had been tirelessly searching for his daughter since her disappearance. Tragically, the stress and heartbreak of Neziah's disappearance took a devastating toll on her father. On July 25, 2024, Mervyn Jennings passed away from heart failure, never knowing what had happened to his beloved daughter.
He was already sick, but this took him over the edge. With all the might in his body, he was out every day searching, looking, doing as much as he could to bring awareness and to bring his baby home.
Mervyn's dedication to finding Neziah was unwavering, even as his health declined. His loss was another cruel blow to a family already reeling from Neziah's disappearance. The community's resolve to find answers only grew stronger in the wake of Mervyn's passing. The case had captured the heart of Detroit, with regular updates on local news and a growing social media presence dedicated to finding Neziah. In August 2024, nearly 8 months after Neziah's disappearance, the Detroit Police Department announced a significant development. They had submitted a warrant request to the county prosecutor's office, indicating that they had gathered enough evidence to move forward with potential charges.
Developing in Wayne County, the prosecutor's office tells us Detroit police have submitted a warrant request in the case of missing teenager ZIYAH Harris.
We are prepared very soon to make an announcement on this case.
This statement sparked a glimmer of hope for Neziah's family and supporters. Could this be the breakthrough they had been waiting for? The news that a warrant request had been submitted to the county prosecutor's office was a clear indication that the police had gathered enough evidence to move forward with potential charges.
They have all of the supporting evidence that they need to convict the person that is responsible. So right now we're just waiting for the Detroit Police Department to go ahead and make their announcement so that we can give Neziah the justice that she deserves.
The search for answers in the case of missing 13-year-old Neziah Harris. Tonight, Detroit police tell us the suspect in her disappearance is behind bars from another case.
While the details of the warrant were not made public, it was widely speculated that it involved Jarvis Ramon Butts, the man who had been the focus of the investigation. The revelation that the suspect was already in custody for another case brought mixed emotions. While it was a relief to know that he was off the streets, it also raised questions about why he hadn't been apprehended sooner, potentially preventing Neziah's disappearance. As the legal process unfolded, the impact on Neziah's family and the broader community became increasingly apparent. The case had exposed deep-seated issues within the system designed to protect children, leading to calls for reform and greater accountability. Understandably, the trauma of Neziah's disappearance extended far beyond her immediate family. It touched everyone who had been involved in the search, from law enforcement to community volunteers. The case served as a stark reminder of the vulnerability of children and the importance of community vigilance.
It's something that we're hoping that it wasn't the case. However, we're all dealing with it the best way that we can right now.
Naziyah Harris's disappearance is not just another statistic. It is a heart-wrenching tragedy that forces us to confront the deep failings of systems meant to protect the most vulnerable. Her story goes beyond one family. It's a call for change, urging us all to take action. First and foremost, we must see Naziyah not as a case number, but as a young girl with hopes, dreams, and a future that was cruelly taken from her. Her absence has left an unfillable void in her family and community. Her grandmother's emotional plea highlights the desperation they feel.
I'm asking anyone that knows anything about my granddaughter, please contact the police department. She's been missing for a very long time.
This pain is only amplified as the days go by without answers. It's a stark reminder of families suffering as time drags on with no closure. The case also shines a light on a deeply troubling issue: sexual predators within our communities. The alleged actions of Jarvis Ramon Butts, a registered sex offender, reveal the horrifying dangers that often hide in plain sight. His repeated offenses raise critical questions about current systems' effectiveness to monitor and rehabilitate such individuals.
For the most part, individuals with these types of rap sheets, what's protective of society is essentially keeping them away from society. And so oftentimes these individuals, they should not get early release. They may not respond to treatment programs, and they may not care enough to stop themselves, even if there's a part of them that knows what they're doing is wrong.
The system's failure to rehabilitate individuals like Butts is deeply troubling. It reflects a larger societal issue in how we manage and monitor sex offenders. As a presenter previously pointed out,
people like this tend to get worse, not better. There's like, putting them in jail doesn't do anything. They just get out and the conduct continues, and it gets more risky, more extreme, more dangerous.
This case exposes serious flaws in how we handle offenders like Butts. Even when they're released, many go on to reoffend, often becoming more dangerous. These repeated failures show us that the system isn't doing enough to protect the innocent. And while not all sex offenders fit the stereotype of a lurking predator, this doesn't lessen the horror. As Deputy Public Defender Philip Dube points out, many offenders are people who commit crimes of opportunity, often with those they are trusted to care for. The tragedy of Naziyah's case reminds us that the greatest threats can come from those closest to us. It demands vigilance and stronger protective measures for vulnerable children. The failure of Child Protective Services to act decisively, despite repeated warnings about Butts, reveals a widespread problem with how our institutions handle dangerous individuals. This is not just about Naziyah, it's about a systemic issue where too often action comes too late. Beyond the case itself, Naziyah's story highlights another uncomfortable truth: the disparity in attention given to missing children of color. Research consistently shows that Black children receive less media coverage and fewer resources than their white peers, and this neglect can have devastating consequences. Naziyah's case is a somber reminder of the urgent need for equity in how we handle missing person cases. The impact on her family is profound. Dr. Judy Ho explains the trauma of not knowing what happened to a loved one.
It can be so grueling, and vicarious trauma is a real thing. You know, hearing horrible things happen to a family member, it really weighs heavily on the mind and the heart. And so I just wish this family and you, Roxy, and everybody that loves Naziyah the very best during this process.
Naziyah's father passed away before learning the fate of his daughter, another tragic loss in a story filled with heartbreak. His partner, Roxy, echoes the anguish.
And to hear something as tragic as this, it's just an unfortunate situation, and we're trying our best to get through it.
Despite the immense grief, Naziyah's family continues to fight for justice, inspiring us all with their resilience. Their perseverance is a powerful reminder that we must seek the truth, hold institutions accountable, and work together to protect children. As we reflect on Naziyah Harris's story, it becomes clear that this is not just a cautionary tale, it's a call to action. It challenges us to be more vigilant, more compassionate, and more determined to fix the broken systems designed to protect protect children. Naziyah deserves to be remembered not just as a victim, but as a young girl full of potential. We must honor her by ensuring no child has to live in fear again. The disappearance of ZIYAH Harris is a tragedy that has left an indelible mark on her family and community. Her story is a painful reminder of the vulnerabilities that exist in our society and the urgent need for systemic change. As we reflect on Naziyah's case, we must confront the harsh realities of child predators, the failures of the systems meant to protect the vulnerable, and the disparities that exist in how missing children cases are handled. This is not just a single, isolated tragedy. It is a call to action for all of us to be more vigilant, compassionate, and proactive in our efforts to safeguard the well-being of our children. Naziyah's memory deserves to be honored, not just through the pursuit of justice, but through a renewed commitment to creating a world where no child has to live in fear. We owe it to her and to all the children who have suffered similar fates to ensure that the systems and communities meant to protect them are held accountable and strengthened to prevent such heartbreaking losses in the future. As we continue to grapple with the unanswered questions and profound grief surrounding Naziyah's disappearance, let us channel our collective energy into positive change. Let us work tirelessly to create a society where every child is seen, heard, and fiercely protected. Only then can we truly honor the memory of ZIYAH Harris and the countless others whose lives have been cut short by the very forces that should have kept them safe. Thank you for watching and following along with ZIYAH Harris's heartbreaking story. If you have any information about this case, no matter how small, please don't hesitate to share it with the proper authorities. Every piece of information can help in the search for answers and justice. If you found this video informative, share it with others to help raise awareness. And remember, we all play a role in protecting the vulnerable in our communities. Until we meet again, take care, stay safe, and we'll see you next time.